in. Request to speak from Mark. Now I'm going to turn the volume off on my phone because otherwise we get a feedback loop from phone to Riverside. So, all right, we have. We're starting our recording on Riverside. Hello, by the way, Mark Edwards, and we are live,
Awesome.
Tom. There we go. How you doing today, man?
I am doing great. How are you doing today, Trevor?
I'm holding it together. I'm doing all right. I went for a run today, and the whole city's a sheet of goddamn ice, so I slipped and fell, which is not perfect.
Oh no.
But other than that, I'm fine. And I didn't break anything. I'm not that old.
Well,
Not
hey,
like
I also
oh, I
went.
broke my hip. No. So
Yeah, I also went for a run today for the first time in a very long time. Something must be in the air or on the internet, getting people out and moving. But all good stuff.
gotcha. All right. So we have three things we're going to talk through today. Those of us who are on Twitter will get the majority of this. Those of us who are on LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live, or I think that's where we're pushing to your YouTube, your LinkedIn, my LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Any of those places, you will be able to see the screen. If you aren't there, then you will have to cope with trying to make through with theater of the mind. The three things I know of that we're talking about, we are we are pushing. We are talking about building something interesting and how you can stand up a no-code stack to put together surprisingly complex sets of features really, really fast. You can also, well, I'll do a live build of an ad campaign and kind of the first funnel ad campaign for our new product class notes. And then we will also talk about some of the performance of what we have done to date, what we've learned from it, and what you can apply to it as well. I did just write and publish a blog post on this precise topic this morning. So those of you who want to skip right past all the discussion and go read instead, you can go to crowdtamers.com and scroll down to the page where you'll see the most recent blog post, and it's this. But those of us who like to consume our words via sound and with pictures and mustaches, by all means, please hang out with us. So that's what we are like. My expectation for what we're covering. Is there anything I'm forgetting, Tom?
Well, on my side, the thing that I really want to show today is just the actual like no code or low code stack. So
Right.
there's a couple things that I'm going to actually walk through, talking about how we go from the user interface, what the users actually see, to the front end, to the back end, and then back end services that are sort of making everything happen. So I got some stuff to share on just a flow diagram and talk through a couple things, but I think it'll be really informative. The link is going to show everything that I'm going to cover today is in a link in the description if you're in YouTube. I'll probably be posting this also in a couple other places just so the X-ray workflow link that links all the resources and all the materials of what it is that we're building and the flow diagrams and everything will all be right there, along with, of course, some crowd tamers and X-Ray.Tech, contact information and stuff like that. So should be pretty good.
Awesome. All right. So, do you wish to tackle first topic? You want me to tackle first topic? How do you want to dive into this here?
Yeah, I think I could actually go first on this because I think this would be a pretty good way of orienting what it is we actually built and how other people can do the same. So I'm going to share my screen and promptly switch to the X-ray workflow board here. So what we're looking at is a piece of X-ray technology, but we're going to be referring to a whole bunch of other things. So the first experiment here is on Summary.Legal, and the one that Trevor is going to be doing some extra ad campaign work on is experiment 2. This is called class notes. But what I really want to get into right now is a flow diagram that is very loosely a flow diagram. It's really a design aesthetic for those of you able to see. Really talking about the user interface, the front end, the back end, and back end services, and some slight differences in how all of these things sort of interact. So from a super high level, we're looking at a softer user interface on the front end. So that is the thing that the user is actually going to sign in to. They're going to engage. They're going to click on buttons that have a certain color and a certain size and all those things, right? That is the user interface. And when we're using software to actually build a user interface, there's a ton of things that it does for us right out of the box. And I'm going to get to that in a couple of minutes. I'm going to time box myself, Trevor, 15 minutes, no more than that on my end. So
Yes, sir.
please stop me, or if anyone has questions, by all means, feel free to ask them, or you can comment down here in the chat. I have the chat up on YouTube if anyone has any comments or questions. So the software user interface is going to be the real magic place for the users. So when they come in and they actually create an account, software does some really great things for us on account creation. They already have a magic link-esque type user sign-in process where they actually send a code to the email that you signed up with, and that's how you get in. So it's a passwordless signups process, which is great because one of the hard things in building product is handling user passwords. You really just don't want to have to deal with that sensitive information, and with software you don't have to. So there's a distinction here between the user interface and the front end. Now, the front end is where things get served to the user. It might have some extra CSS or some extra design elements or some extra JavaScript or other things that the user isn't actually interacting with, but helps you achieve your desired design aesthetic. That is also inside of software. And then we go into the back end. And our backend is completely on Airtable right now as a data store. It's an enterprise Airtable account. And Airtable is fantastic for us for one, working with software, but also being able to actually do some extra calculations, get some analytics and insights. That's where the Airtable backend database really shines. And because Airtable is such an automation-friendly application, we can go and leverage other services. So these back-end services that I'm referencing here are external services that we actually use for transcription and for an AI summary, right? So all of this right here is about 5 different applications, and they're connected together in this sort of format, right? Where you have the user interface from software, and then back-end services being leveraged, namely Trint and OpenAI. So I have all of those tools and sort of different tools that we're using, like AppBind is something that Trevor and CrowdTamers gave to XRay so that we can pay for ads, and then things like Airtable or Software or Make, Zapier, or Trint. This is our no-code tech stack or low-code tech stack for the Summary.Legal product and the Class Notes product. So all of those resources are there if you want to explore each individual tool a little bit more. The second half of what I wanted to share today is just the way that the user interface and software actually interact. So the user is doing a sign up and they're able to pay. They're able to upload recordings. They're able to get their summary and their transcript, and they're able to share recordings. So those are the main things that a user is actually able to do. For software, what software does for us is it lets us add custom CSS. It has a passwordless sign-in process, has a native Stripe integration, and a native Airtable integration. Those are the 4 major things that software gives to us here. And then on the Airtable side, it's encrypted user data in enterprise instance, which is really, really important for security reasons, right? You need this data, especially user data, to be protected. Then our Airtable holds all of our automation logic for controlling the different triggers and actions that we are sending to different backend services, right? So this logic here inside of the Airtable database is going to be ingested by the automation provider and then sent over to a transcription service and an AI service. And we can also get basic analytics and reporting from that. So then Zapier is going to push or pull data from these services, Trint or OpenAI, again, being super transparent with all of the services that we're using here. Trint is going to transcribe the uploaded recordings. OpenAI is going to summarize the uploaded recordings. And this is our tech stack, right? It's these services. A couple $100 a month gets all of these services paid for on the top end. But it allows us to basically build an entire self-service complete application without needing to hire an engineer, and able to push features much faster than really anyone else writing this stuff with code. Having these other backend services that we can leverage, if we want to add another service in here, that is going to be another sort of box right here where the automation provider is, pushing and pulling data from that other service, and that's going to be ingested into the Airtable data store, and that will be visible right on the user interface, the front end of software. So that's what I got for you. Trevor, I'm curious if you have any questions.
That all looks mostly like what I'm accustomed to seeing. It does look to me, I don't know if Mark pinged you on Slack, it looks to me like you've been muted this whole time on Twitter, not here in the recording on Riverside. But check and see if you're broadcasting audio there. Hey, there
That
you
would
are.
have been the issue. Yep.
My bad, dude.
Sorry,
My bad.
Twitter people.
Currently, we have
Just
only Mark in the
subscribed on
call,
YouTube.
so we're not
Yeah.
we're not filling this silent. Neither you nor I have as much Twitter reach as we maybe would like. All right. So no, I think this all makes sense. I get the idea of what you've covered. Um, if the simplicity of what you've built, one, I think doesn't pay proper tribute to how much time and effort it's taken you to be able to build something that is this simple, right? It is hard to get that depth of understanding with all these tools. But it also does show, once you know what you're doing, the speed with which you can stand up something and say, I'm going to build and launch a something that is quite complex and do it with a real intent to not just plink around, but to be able to build and launch a startup that will scale to a relatively good size and do it at a speed that, I mean, I'm old, dude. I remember back when you had to put hundreds of thousands of dollars into infrastructure to get something that was 10% this good.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is like the ability for us to modularize the backend services and remix this into a handful of different products is not all that expensive, not all that difficult, and that's just a crazy opportunity that I think we're walking into right now. And really, any builder out there can set this type of material up and set up just a fantastic way for them to iterate and build and have a self-serve product. Like the tech stack that I just showed, that could get us, I don't know, 1,000, 10,000 users.
Yeah.
But 1,000, 10,000 users paying anything really
You'll do okay.
is a business, right? Like all
Yeah.
of a sudden that's a lifestyle business that would make you very happy, and you'd be pretty okay leaving that on autopilot. So I think very for the last, we'll say, decade, the emphasis is on, oh, it's so hard to build tech. And now it's not so hard to build tech. And now, the big question and why I'm so excited about this whole build in public thing is, like, after you build it, then what? Right? Build it and they will come, but kind of, sort of, not really, right?
Oh, very much not really.
There's a little bit of excellence that needs to be communicated through like the product and the ads to even get people to go there.
Yeah. So I think that does that can bring us to a discussion about what is it that we've built. I think is worth talking a bit about. What is it that we've learned? I think it's worth talking a bit about. And I think let me go into both of those and let me do. This is the wrong browser window. That's the right browser window. Let me share my screen and we'll talk. I think I'll first talk about what we've done and what we learned from it. And then I think that will feed things nicely into, let's real quick run an example of what it looks like to build and run an experiment. Uh, I think, as I'm speaking of the speed at which Tom and his team delivered this website, right, which was insanely fast, but it was also like 100 hours, and that's not something we can live stream. But
No.
some of what I do, I can show the building part of an ad campaign goes pretty fast, and we can talk a bit about what that looks like for any people who are either already builders or who go, oh, I see how to build, but what do I do from there? So first, let's talk about Summary.Legal, the first round of reporting. What did we actually do? Um, and this is reminiscent of what I do with any of my clients when I'm doing the reporting. So, Tom, we'll just pretend you're my client. The first
Please.
thing
Oh
to
yeah.
remind ourselves of always is when you're running experiments to go to market or when you're building a product, right? It's iterative, and you're going to drive towards the conclusion of eventually this should make millions of dollars a year in revenue. But right now it won't, and on the first experiment it won't. As I tweeted today, when you go to market, the first thing you'll do is fail. Sorry, because that's a guarantee. First time you try anything, you won't be good at it. That's how life goes. But through iteration and through knowing what success and failure looks like at every stage, you can get to where you're going to be successful in the end. So right now we ran our very first set, which is basically proof that analytics worked, which they do, and then measuring what our baseline is for our click-through rate on ads. Because right now, the destination landing page, I guess I can show you that real quick here. Where is it? That's here. That's here. This is the destination landing page. I'm logged in, so this is. Hang on, let me log out. The layout's a bit messed up when you're logged in right now. Sign out. Hey, refresh. There we go. Yeah. So, this is the
Oh, it's a
page.
sign in button now.
We
That's new.
do. Mark just added that yesterday. It's awesome. um, the the layout here, fine, whatever. This page was something I put together to have a place to send the traffic more than that I had a really strong opinion about what would work. When we look at the ads we ran, which look like, hey, here we go, which look like this whole variety of ads here. Like there's no, with the exception of this dude who's having the time of his life, there's no real tie between the ads and the landing page. And so the conversion rate is going to be awful because right now I'm not really measuring what's happening on the page. I'm measuring what's happening with the ads. And so speaking of measuring what's happening with the ads, let me talk about those ads. All right. So, in a nutshell, what we got for a very first attempt, we got some good engagement, particularly in men over in 40. We had a good click-through rate. But we need to test some narrowly defined job segments next, and by next I mean now, because the ads are live at this moment. Um, Generally, our targeting, right? We're just hitting like anything that sounded law related, including oddly some Farsi. I don't. That was my team member who bought this doesn't speak Farsi, and nor does she live in any Arabic country. But when she put in like commercial law, her browser went, "Oh, this is what you meant." So I'm not sure what that was, but trust me, these are all legal terms. Um, and then the ads, as they run, they look kind of like this, right? You have an ad image, you have text above, you have some text below. And so running these ads, we got different click-through rates, different engagements in each of them. And our uh, second most successful ad here was this dude overwhelmed by deposition documentation, fix it with Summary.Legal. And our most successful here at almost 1.1 was paralegals. You're going to love this one. These are both emotional appeals, right? The ones that were save hours, the ones that were go fast, those were not the ones that performed particularly well here. So all buying is fundamentally an emotional decision, but it's interesting to see that that was a particularly like the emotional appeal language is working best. I do have, and I always review with the client all the click-through rates. I think it's not super necessary for us right here. But one of the interesting things I saw, one is when you go into Facebook ads, you'll see all these ads here, and they give you the high-level stats, and you're like, cool, that's a little bit useful. But when you dive into the stats a little more deeply, you begin to get age and gender distribution of your engagement. You can also see things like whether these are on desktop or on mobile, on Instagram or on Facebook. It lets you begin to build a bigger picture of what's going on. And so here I can see women were the majority of the impressions, but men were, particularly older men, were actually the majority of the clicks. So younger women saw the ads but weren't terribly prone to click on them. Older men clicked proportionately more, which suggests to me some of our targeting here was targeted to people who, and women in particular, who were not particularly interested in these ads. Now, why would that be? Well, as I looked into this some more, um, we have, I actually have to go, I guess, to my blog post to get the actual charts in, but 78% of all paralegals are women, and 57% of all lawyers are men, which means the weight on who wants this versus who was shown this, it looks like the paralegals ad spoke to women as far as giving them impressions, but maybe they went, I don't want to have my job taken away by having depositions done for me. So the next version that we wanted to run, the next iteration that's currently live is, well, what if we took, instead of hitting just broadly everybody who looks kind of like a lawyer with this targeting, let's build three separate audiences. And so one audience will be just paralegals and legal secretaries, one will be just corporate law, one will be just in-house counsel at companies where the lawyer has a bunch of other stuff to do. And with that new targeting in place, we're going to see what engagement looks like to begin to get a feeling for who, in terms of the demographic information, appeals to the person, and then also who, in terms of their job and their firm, is engaging. And now we can, armed with that knowledge, make that landing page, which right now is super generic. We can now dive into this might be the best way for in-house counsel to keep on top of all the meeting with the legal implications that they need to keep track of. Right? There may be a bunch of meetings they just don't go to, and they maybe wish they did. And being able to say, hey, just send me the video, and Summary.Legal will summarize it for me. That might do for them, right? We don't know yet. We're discovering. So that's what this experiment does. That's what these experiments look like. What we learned, right? Social proof and emotional proof for what worked well. Our cost per thousand, which confusingly is CPM, thank you French, is fairly affordable, and our cost per click is under $1, which means if we can make the landing page convert at all, this should be a moneymaker. And the way to make the landing page convert is to really figure out what problem we're solving for our audience. Because if we're saying for Summary.Legal, $80 a month is our cost for even a small law firm to come on board, it is pretty hard to not make a return on ad spend if your conversion rate is even, what, 1% on the sign up and then 10% on the conversion to sale. You still have a 3-month payback, right? Like, that's phenomenal stats. So getting that landing page working, and then this one's got money. Narrow targeting by job type for our next experiment, and almost all the engagement was on mobile. Now, the software design is pretty decent on mobile. Let me give you a quick simulation of it. Boop. If it'll refresh. No. Might be a little too narrow. It does a decent, oh, I'm off screen. That's why, there we go. It does a decent job on mobile. In-app UX, also, we actually already work quite well with just upload directly from your phone. One thing I think might be worth testing, I haven't brought this up to you and Mark yet, is if instead of summarize your first meeting, we have install app, because we can technically make this a single page web app that's just installed on your phone. Might be worth trying. I don't know, but our traffic came almost exclusively from phones. So it's like that might be a landing page conversion test later on.
You're saying the majority of traffic is actually coming from phones.
Oh yeah, 95%.
Oh wow. Do you think that's a function of the demographic, or were you just non-specific in where the ads were?
I deliberately did not segment off Instagram, and I didn't segment off mobile devices. I could, right? Then the CPM will go up and the CPC will go up. But for now, we want to see, right, all this phone traffic, can we make it sign up? That's part of why it's so cheap, is it's phone traffic. Now, if we have a high quality advertiser score, which we're not quite there yet, we'll get even better earlier ad views. Right now, we're just a brand new ad account, so we're in the slush pile of all the garbage. If we begin to show landing page conversions, then Facebook will bump us up as a higher rated advertiser, and we won't be the 40th ad on someone's doom scroll. We'll be the first
Yeah.
ad they see when they open the app, and that's a way better ad to be, right? We're not there yet. But heavily on mobile, that's not too shocking. Facebook users are heavily on mobile, so are Instagram users heavily on mobile. So that's not unsurprising. The question is if we can't make the mobile ad traffic convert, then of course we stop serving to mobile ad traffic.
Yeah.
So a lot's up in the air, right? We're running the next round of experiments right now. They're live at this very moment. I haven't even checked yet today uh, what they're doing. I've got them huh,
Yeah.
somewhere here.
Let's see what it is. It's always exciting to
Let's see
check.
what we're doing here.
I feel
Crowd
like
tamer.
it's
There's
easy. It's easy to check
Summary.Legal.
every day.
Opening ad manager. I check every day. I get obsessed. I've got 9, I think, ad accounts I'm currently actively maintaining. If I check them all every day, that's all I do. But on 1A, let's see what we're looking at here. Uh, well, Facebook's being slow. Um, the ads have been live since yesterday afternoon, unless for some reason nothing is serving. Either it's not. Oh, wait, it doesn't include today's. Oh, look at the date. That's the problem. There we go.
Happens
Hey!
every time.
And then performance and clicks will get us our click through rate, and we'll see how we're doing here. Frequency is not bad. We're up at 0.98 is pretty solid. That's in the paralegal, so now we know where all those clicks came from. And then corporate counsel and just straight up lawyers. Those are a bit low. So we don't have super compelling ads in either of these. Like our winning ad won't be up at 1.5%. Indeed, we're not even serving impressions on. Well, that's not right. We're not even serving impressions on 2 of these ad units. Um, the ad that are running in the paralegal space, these are probably our least valuable uh, traffic. All of them are only running one variant. Okay. I will get them all live here. We'll get more data tomorrow. We've so far spent $50, so we're not too deeply in the red here.
Now, this is a different experiment than the last one that you ran. If we can
Yeah,
just
this
sit
is
on this a
1A,
little
not
bit.
1. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So the first experiment, you were listing, um, you were targeting different like emotional cues, or like you were
Yeah.
testing like an emotional design, a logical design. Like,
Mhm.
talk to me about like what those things were in the first experiment and what is different in terms of
Sure.
targeting on the second.
So I have created a good positioning test 3-way. This is how we approach any new piece of copywriting for any client. Is we say the 3 basic appeals. This is Aristotle, right? Logos,
He was a
pathos,
good
and
guy,
ethos.
Aristotle. Yeah,
He
he
was
was
yeah
famous.
he was a mensch. Um, he taught that the third point was authority, right? 9 out of 10 doctors choose Crest. We don't care anymore that 9 out of 10 doctors choose Crest. The replacement for specific authority now is the diffuse authority, social proof. It's some other human likes this. And so we use those 3. Social proof can often be a testimonial, but this product didn't exist on the first of the month. So we don't have testimonials yet. So instead, we're saying something like built for paralegals, solves a problem that your exact cohort of people have. That's
Yeah.
our version of kind of a social proof, even though I can't have, you know, Bob Jones says this has been the best. Was it Saul Goodman says this is the best tool he's ever used as a lawyer. I can't make that quote yet. So that is the start. And now with that, we ran and we saw social proof as identifying with the job and emotion, identifying with the common frustration. Those went real well. Logic, save time, save money. Those didn't particularly perform well on the ads we ran. So now instead we're running by, let me get into the right ad account here. What, this one? Now we're running instead of everything in one bucket and these different emotions. Now I have my 3 different verticals, right? Paralegals, corporate counsel, and litigation attorneys. And for them, I'm then running 3 ads at each. And so that then gets me,
Okay.
and it's a variation of the previous ad with some copy changes. We're still running the same units of creative. It's still the same imagers. So it's still this stack of papers, this dude having the time of his life, these people, like it's all these images. It's just different text in the ad image and also in the text around the ad. So that's the way we are making a variation rather than completely new. Although speaking of completely new, I've run through my 15 minutes about what we built, how we built it, and I think it's worth. Oh, we have plus two others. Somebody else is hanging out here. Uh, Maybe. No, it's just you and me. Okay. Uh, and speaking of something new, so I mentioned, right, I've spent my time through to kind of review what we did with Summary Legal. This kind of beginning is how I start go to market for any of the 15 companies I've taken to 2 million plus in revenue. It begins with exploration, right? And costs are quite reasonable when you're being extremely tight, which we're being pretty tight. If I do the last 30 days, I think we were $381 total for round one. We'll end up being about the same for round for
Hmm.
1A here. And at the end of that, we'll have learned enough to figure out what should our landing page be, and then we'll run one more campaign to see if we can get some signups from there. And that'll be the full set, right? One A and two. And with
Yeah.
that, we should know enough to begin to model out the actual commercials for this little early stage product. But
Well,
how do you build an ad campaign?
well, I think I just don't want to gloss over this one point that you just
Yeah.
made of $380 in or $432 in, right?
Now, yeah.
We have a very good understanding of what is at least driving a click, right? Because it's not just this one magic moment that all of a sudden people sign up in bill, in droves to your SaaS product. It is a constant refinement of every single piece of the process from product to adoption. And this is a really great example of a relatively cheap way, right? You're not spending a week building something heads down and focused the whole time. You're spending a week of letting, 10 cents, 15 cents, 77 cents drop out of your wallet, but in the aggregate you're able to really understand, okay, this is who we're targeting, this is why we're targeting, this is the pain that this demographic is actually um, feeling, and
Yeah.
we can reverse engineer how to talk to them that way.
And if you think about it, right, our first experiment, we effectively asked 16,500 people, hey, do you care about this? And the answer, of course, overwhelmingly was no, I'm busy, shut up. Because that's going to be the case anytime you ask people to interrupt their day. But some people in given demographics were a little more like, yeah, maybe I care more. Fewer of them said, shut up. And that's what you're trying to get to is if I can get 2%, 3%. I've had ads I've run with 7, 8% click through rates where you found people who were like, yes, tell me more. Right? When you get that, now you know you've got the product, messaging, and audience fit. And then everything that goes on from there, wait a minute, right? That ad that I had with a 7% click through rate was for an e-com product that didn't exist yet. And it was on a dark landing page, a landing page that had no UI, nowhere to get anywhere else on the website. And one
Mhm.
person from that ad campaign visited the dark landing page, then went to the home page of that store, bought a different product that wasn't what the landing page was offering because they hadn't made the product that we were testing yet. And so then had to be given a refund because we tracked him down and we were like, I understand you want the thing that we said we built, but we haven't built it yet. And then you spent $300 on the thing that nowhere on the page you bought from said it did the thing that we said we were going to do. Did you know that? And he was like, no. So we had to give him back his $300. It's just an
Well,
example of you find enough pain, people will hunt you down, grab you by the collar, and be like, let me give you my money.
Well,
well, there's a number of companies I know of in the e-commerce space that do something like that, right?
Yeah.
Where they say, "Oh, check out the new hoodie, check out this, check out that," and it's like these things just don't straight up don't exist.
In our case, at least we do have something that exists.
It does.
Right? we
And-
do have something that is. So it's not an ad campaign to go and figure out if we should build it or what we should build. We had already built this thing, and it's a file uploader, it's a transcriber, it's a summarizer, and we just happen to be focusing it on the legal industry. And I am excited to see and get into the weeds on the education industry, right? Class notes. But I think it's really crucial that we just touch on the fact that like we could spin this up from product and ads in a month and be able to learn something that
It was really about 2 weeks
6
because
months ago.
you spun it up and then you spun it up and then you were trying to find somebody who could do go-to-market and then you were like, oh wait, I know a guy.
Yeah, that is true.
So it was really about 2 weeks. And you can move real fast. Now, of course, part of why this is moving so fast also is, like, I don't have a client feedback loop here, right? I'm like, hey, Tom, I'm doing this. And you're like, cool, as I go streaming by, right? In a client feedback loop, this will take a little more time. But if you listening, watching here after we record this or live on some channel, if you, the builder, are doing this yourself, go to crowdtamers.com, right? We've got this is just about to get an update once my designer finishes making the the Illustrator and Sketch files, the $10 million Facebook ad template pack. These are 10 different ad templates, all of which were used to build the top of $1 million funnel. And they were all top performers. They are better than 98% of all ads out there in terms of performance. So you go download this and you've already got some of the best performing ads on Facebook. Download this, put your words in place of lorem ipsum, right? Get your landing page put together. Go build and run your ads on Facebook. A couple $100, $500, $1,000, and you'll see, do you want same day transcripts and summaries, or do you want, I just noticed we need to change the icon here at the top of the page to be class notes. And also, that's the wrong logo. We were going to buy classnote.es until we were like, we got to give your passport for that. Now it's classnote.text.
Anyway. I mean, .es is a crazy domain extension. They require a lot of personal information, so we said no thanks.
We said no thanks. Classnotes.tech, whatever, right? Don't get hung up on the name. But this is the exact same backend. This is the exact same product, but then a wholly different market, a wholly different use case, different language, different ads, right? Let's talk about those real quick. I don't know if we have time today. I might not have time to actually build the ads. I may just record this and run it separately. But here's the ads for class notes, right? Again, identical product, completely different people we're talking to. It looks insanely different. You would never look at class notes and Summary.Legal and go, oh, that's the same thing. You can't fool me. Because what we're doing here is we're meeting the audience where they are. We're not saying, oh, we're just going to take this frustrated old dude, and this old dude, he said, this guy looks about my age, this frustrated old dude, and be like, this is what will speak to the youth of today. We didn't do that, right? Let's go make some ads that look a little more like what I'm seeing in consumer ads for students right now. And run these. Facebook, yes. Starting on Facebook because I want to establish parity with Summary.Legal. If Class Notes has any kind of legs at all, I'm immediately running over to TikTok because that's where the students actually are. Facebook is where old people go to die. I don't expect to see a ton of kids on Facebook. Instagram, okay, there's more of them there. WhatsApp, yes, tons of them there. But Facebook it's practically a retirement home by this point. By which I mean people my age, 40, are in there. And so these ads, this whole market, and then we got two more we're doing, right? We're going to corporate boards and nonprofit boards next week once we find a domain name we can agree on, since apparently Moo Rooms is a bad one. And then we're also doing for marketers who do podcasts and webinars, right? Instant show notes, instant webinar notes. All those people, and see where money is, where options are, where growth is. And doing that will be mid-March. We'll have basically launched 4 companies put $1,000 behind each of them, and then seen,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah,
And
the
Yeah, the
next
next
6 weeks is
6 weeks
going
is
to
going to
be
be
a
a
whole
whole
bunch of
bunch of
these,
these,
right?
right?
I mean,
I mean,
we've got to
we've got
have
to
a
have a
couple of
couple of
these
these
and
and
stream it
stream it
to the
to the
public
public
here.
here.
But
But
I
I
am
am
super
super
excited to
excited to
see
see
how
how
these
these
ads
ads
do
do
on
on
classnotes.tech,
classnotes.tech,
and
and
then
then
yeah,
yeah,
we got
we
to
got to
figure out
figure out
something
something
better
better
than
than
move
move
rooms.
rooms.
You know,
You know,
anyone
anyone
on the
on the
live
live
stream
stream
here,
here,
please,
please,
shoot a
shoot a
fun
fun
domain
domain
for
for
boardroom
boardroom
and
and
NGO
NGO
government
government
software,
software,
or
or
board
board
meeting
meeting
summaries.
summaries.
That would
That
be
would be
ideal,
ideal,
but
but
hey.
I mean, I know, I don't pretend that Moo Rooms is not a bad name. It's just a bad name that I like. So this is, we'll just do this real quick. Class, I'll show you classnodes.tech. I won't do the full campaign, that'll take a while. But I will show you, this is no categories, buying type option. So I'm setting up a traffic campaign. I'm driving traffic to a destination. I don't, so it's worth, as I go into this, right? I am using A/B tests extensively. I do not tick this button. That is because you have to remember always that Facebook's interests and your interests are not aligned, ever. Facebook's interests are in serving ads that are just good enough that you don't not spend money. Your interest is in getting the best ads you can out there. Facebook is in getting the best, worst ads out there, right? Because the more you spend, the more money they make. And if you go, well, I'm going to take 1,000 users, and I could either spend $2,000 or $10,000 for them. Either way, I'll make money. Well, Facebook would much rather you spend the 10, right? And a lot of their AI optimization obscures from you information you need to make informed decisions on not just what you're doing on Facebook, but also what you're doing on TikTok and LinkedIn and Twitter and Pinterest and every other channel out there based off what you've learned. So don't actually make use of the automatic testing and AI optimization features when we're in learning mode. Once you've got everything working, then you can say to Facebook, all right, I'll give you an inch of rope. See if you can run better ads than I can. Facebook frequently can. Um, but not always also. ER1 launch ad campaign. Campaign. There we go. AIGN. There you go. So sending people to a website, and there's no real conversion tracking done yet. Not going to do dynamic. I'm going to do a lifetime budget for this campaign. Is yeah, that's enough. It launches today and it'll run until, I don't generally run these things for a super long time. 7 days is usually sufficient. And now I want to build an audience. I want to get students, obviously, which means we're going down to about 25. And I honestly might bring this back down to 16, get some of those high schoolers in there. And I'm going to add some detailed targeting. Oh, fair enough then. Never mind. I don't frequently advertise to the youths. That'd be 18 plus. I'm going to say this is student. And so I feel like student athlete is probably not quite it. Um, the problem if I do interested in student education is we end up with also every parent, although I guess with the age demographics bracketed and we don't have that. I could also do university, higher education in general. If I want to be very specific, I could start to target given universities and various geographies. On a first experiment, I rarely do that. However, I will also, 6 million is a little broad for me, so I will narrow the audience, and interest must also match. So that means this is a exclusive or exclusive and one and two, not one or two. And in here, I can say you must also be interested in distance learning, okay. Distance education, and because all these people are using Zoom and the like, Zoom, none of these, none of these, none of these. All right, well, that still gets me, I'm down to a little under 1 million. That's a little better number. All right, so these are all distance education students. And what I can say here is I'm also probably going to choose manual placements. I do not want the audience network. This is a fun one for you. Facebook audience network, in my experience, is about 80% bots, maybe even more. So whenever you're running ads, don't run them in the audience network because you will regret all the traffic you get from there.
Wow.
Messenger ads, I could take or leave. But now I could choose to personalize more from here. Like, do I want to be in the marketplace, video feeds, right column, whatever? As I know more about my audience, I will probably exclude. I have a strong suspicion I don't actually want anybody who's not on Instagram. But you test first before you actually set hard targeting because I'm wrong a whole lot. So, in my case, this is going to be my first ad we'll call emotion, M-O-T-I-O-N-1. And this goes with the Facebook page, classnotes.tech, Instagram account. Oh, yeah, there you go with this page. All right. And then, so we're going to upload a single image, not going to do a carousel ad. Those always get higher engagement. But right now we're just testing our capacity to generate some interest from people. And I'm going to grab, so this is clearly logic. This is clearly logic. This is emotion. This is, oh, they're also labeled Trevor. Well, that makes it a little easier. I'm going to start with variant 1 emotion. That's this one. And Facebook has 3 ad units. So in Figma, I'm just going to export this real quick. All 3 of these individually, or separately, I should say. Export these 3 layers into downloads folder, and away we go. Okay, so now back here, upload my creative from my computer. I'm not going to do all 3 of them right now, just going to give you the idea here with Facebook Wide. Open.
Facebook ad network tip. I am very happy that we're taking advantage of that.
I did.
Not paying for bots. I had no idea.
Yeah, not paying for bots. That is, Twitter is. I mean, I'm running a new Twitter ad campaign with a client right now. Last time I ran Twitter, we literally saw 95% of the traffic was bots, in that they had less than a 1-second time on page, and that's how you can tell that it's not a human. Because Facebook ad network means these ads are placed on someone else's website, and when you place them on someone else's website, they earn money to send traffic, right? And so there are whole ad networks full of people who run all of these fraudulent websites, and then they earn money with these bot clicks. And so they will generate hundreds or thousands of dollars a day just by driving fraudulent clicks. If you turn off Facebook ad network, stuff only runs on Facebook itself. Nobody else is getting the money, just Facebook is. As such, there's much less reason for fraudulent traffic, and so you don't end up paying. There's still some bot traffic. And if you're running in the EU, your traffic might all look like bot traffic just because there's no cookies. So, all right, we've got this pulled together. That's not the right primary text. I actually have a whole team that works with me at CrowdTamers. And so if I go grab my, here in Notion, I saw you were recently, are you really going to move off of Notion, Tom?
No, so I'm not moving off of Notion personally. It's not something that we're gonna do. I was just talking to somebody who was telling me that like ClickUp is this up and coming thing, and ClickUp 3.0 is coming out, and they think that there is a desire for ClickUp, the company, to pay for people to create content about shifting from Notion to ClickUp. And I was just curious if that was ever even something that someone has tried. Like, it just seems like a different category of an application. Like, you're not gonna replace QuickBooks with Asana. Like it's just the wrong type of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I mean, I'm not sure. We're certainly not getting off of Notion anytime soon.
Okay.
I was just curious if anyone has ever been even put in that circumstance where they're like, oh, we're going to move from Notion to ClickUp. And it seems to have generated quite the conversation. People are like, why would you ever do that? What is going on? What do you know that we don't? And I'm like, I don't know anything. I'm just asking.
Gotcha. So there's an example. Like I built my first ad. I can add more variations. I can add more. I can add more headlines. I can add more descriptions. There's a bunch I can do here. I'm not going to do it live here on the call. It's irrelevant because it's all just more clicky, pointy. The interesting part, I think, is how do you build an audience, and then once everything's ready, you just publish the ads and run them. Right? I'm not going to publish them now because this is not optimized. But building and running this ad campaign took me, I think I was 15, not even, I was 12 minutes. I was 12 minutes building and getting everything set up here, and making the other 9 units would each take me about maybe 5 minutes, right? That's your time commitment. It goes up, you let it run. And then we already know that the performance of this landing page, right now when it's blank, there we go, is not going to be great because the difference between what we're saying in the ads and what we're saying on the landing page is quite extreme. So again, we're not measuring performance here yet. We start with performance at the click and we see, did I get your attention enough for you to say, all right, tell me more? And if I did, then like the hurdle we have to clear is what's the price, right? What can we get you to say, yes, I'll take advantage of it? This, I would imagine, never, ever, once in the history of ever will happen. But, who knows? I could be surprised. First thing when I was talking to my buddy David about this was he's like, oh, yeah, but it's hard to sell to schools. And I was like, why in the world would you sell this thing to schools? Selling ed tech to the schools is the worst thing you can do in the world. Try and sell to the students for this may have to come down to 99 cents a month, in which case the whole business might not work. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see, right? The
That's an interesting discussion to be had, I think, Trevor, because there is quite a bit of, I think, just straight up refusal from higher education about AI and all of that, and then the students are like, well, we're just going to pretend that Wikipedia doesn't exist. Right, that when I was going through school, that was the thing, is you can't use Wikipedia, and it's like, you know, just ridiculous at this point.
I'm old enough that it was you can't use the encyclopedia.
You have to read your knowledge from clay tablets, Trevor.
Exactly. The Sumerians gave us cuneiform, and if it was good enough for my grandfather, it's good enough for me.
Yeah. So I don't know. Well, I think there is an interesting target there for schools. I don't think that fits our certainly our sales cycle, and certainly not the nature of the application, but a bulk license could be interesting. We'll see if anyone ever contacts us for that on any of the mediums,
But a one-column pricing table felt lonely, so I figured
it
doesn't hurt to do that. Anyway, that's what we've launched so far. I think we're going to reconvene again in 2 weeks. We should have a lot more about Summary.Legal to talk about. I am launching classnotes.tech today, and we will see how that goes. I'll launch it probably late tonight. We'll see how that goes as well. So we'll have at least one round of experience with class notes as well. And we should probably have launched or just about to launch whatever we call our board meeting app as well. So like we're plugging along, moving as fast as we can. It was great to get to sync up, talk to you about what we're building. I think this is, I've never heard of anybody doing this on either side of this equation before. Tom, if somebody wants to know how they can get X-Ray to do awesome things for them, what do they do?
They go to XRay.Tech and they click on that big fat Work With Us button on the top right. That would be the fastest way to get in.
Oh,
Really
I
get
have the
on
wrong
our
default
account.
URL.
Oh my goodness.
X-Ray.Tech. There we go. There we go.
So that
X-Ray.Tech,
big,
click on the big yellow button.
yeah, Work With Us. And when you click on that, that will take you straight to a Calendly page where you can snag our time immediately. Just learning about our services, happy to tell you about any and all the things. And if you're a builder and you want to build some stuff, that is also an okay link to do. We do some other stuff with builders specifically, where we'll give you some extra tools, like I showed you at the beginning of this call, or beginning of this live stream, and give you just a little bit more community and support for building the types of things that you're building. So, we stayed pretty high level in this call, but, I am a huge fan of getting really deep into the weeds. So if you're a builder, let's get into it. If, you want to build or pay to have something built for you, that is absolutely something that we do quite a bit of. So happy to tell you about our services and tell you about how we can create time for you.
Excellent. And oddly enough, given that Tom and I have been working together for years, my sign up flow is almost exactly the same. I'm Trevor. I'm the CEO of CrowdTamers. If you want to work with CrowdTamers, click the big green Let's Chat button. It'll take you. And I don't use Calendly. I'm too hipster. Take you to SavvyCal, where the exact same thing will occur. You book a call with me. My calendar is, I literally only have one. I have a half an hour open. That's it tomorrow. Wow. All right. Well, if you're waking up early, you can book with me next week. Next week might be a little better. There you go. That looks a little better. Otherwise, we build and launch companies. We take startups to market, and we do it in about 60 days, 9 weeks, somewhere around there. If you want to learn more about how we are building and launching all this stuff with X-Ray, as I mentioned at the top of this stream, you can go check out my most recent blog post today, which is Launch Your Startup Workshop Week 1, where everything I talked about in terms of my performance is right here. It dives a little more into depth. And the newest thing I just added into my store today as well is this handy dandy poster with all of your checkpoints for success and failure all the way through launching is now go get our poster. It's live on Gumroad, which is maybe the worst way to sell a physical good I've ever heard of. But that's fine. I have no idea how I'll fulfill orders, but I figured, hey, this is a fun thing to do. So as you see, I've got one, not here. I've got one, and then you can have your own. So that's me. That's Tom. Thanks for your time today, everybody. And we'll catch you in 2 weeks. See y'all.
Bye-bye.